um, basically a disclaimer up front that the that it may in fact it's hard to know exactly who it is, but the FBI director has said it's Russian based. It's happening in Russian territory, and most people believe, I believe, dark side is Russian based criminal actors. And as we talked about a few months ago on the show, it's very difficult to know, like, day job, night job. Like, is it I guess officially the Biden administration has said it's not state sponsored, in a sense of it's not the Russian military, but everyone believes that if it's going on in Russia, Putin knows about it. He's letting it happen. So maybe turning a blind eye. Does he know the specifics? Maybe not, but he knows this is going on. And so, as you said, but again, the official policy is that Russia's denying it. They're saying we don't know anything about this, and we're not supporting this. These are criminal elements.
Yeah. Okay. So before we started, I let Dan know my opinion on this, and I'm pretty sure, from what I'm reading from everybody, that it's the Russians. And nothing happens in Russia. I was going to say the Soviet Union. Nothing happens in Russia without KGB head Vladimir Putin knowing about it, right? I mean, I just find it hard to believe this.
I agree. I agree with you. You and I are on the same page. I'm just saying there are different opinions out there, and I just want to make sure that we said that. But I agree with you that they do know about it. They know who the people are, and so we're on the same page on that.
Yeah, and so what we've had is now one of the things that probably was not as well publicized as it should have been was on the Colonial Pipeline. The dark side folks didn't actually bring the pipeline down. The administration brought that down because the administrative system went down and they were not able to bill their customers, so they just shut the whole thing down. That was your assessment as well, right?
I agree. Yeah, and we were discussing that earlier, and I just mentioned that in many cases, it may not be the operational critical infrastructure itself, but if it's the back office, we're just talking about major ransomware that happened in Ireland and it brought the National Health Service of Ireland down. And the challenge there was, they didn't actually shut down the emergency, the emergency rooms or the operating rooms or the doctor's ability to do surgeries, but they did all of the appointments, all of the administrative back office systems were locked out. And then they had all the patient data as well. But that forced them to basically shut down their NHS, their whole, really all their hospitals for like almost a week, which was huge impact. But, it's hard to know how any organization is going to respond when their email gets shut off, their back office systems get shut off, or the data is not available. As you mentioned, in this case, they couldn't bill the customers. And so they decided, we can't bill, we can't run the pipeline. I shut down the pipeline.
Yeah, and then JBL, I'm not sure if it was the same set of circumstances, but I suspect it probably was, right?
JBS, yeah. It was, largely there was the administrative pieces of that. And the FBI has talked about that. There's really kind of 100 types of ransomware. There's an article on thehill.com that people can read. We can get that link out to people. But talking about all the different types of attacks that are out there. And same kind of thing. Back office systems being made unavailable. They didn't have the ability to really do the routing and the tracking and all the things that they need to do to be able to operate their assembly, basically their processes.
Now, the speculation has been, since President Biden is going to be meeting President Putin in Geneva in 10 days or so, that all this is a prelude to kind of putting him on the spot to see how he's going to react. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's definitely some posturing going on both sides. And I guess, back to your core question, and we should probably get to that, is, what can the U.S. do about it? And I do think that Russia, that there's, in my experience, and as you know, I have an NSA background. So, I mean, to me, I don't have the specific classified intelligence. How does the FBI know exactly what happened? Like I said, it's hard to do attribution to know, precisely. But they have that data. They're not going to probably make it public, but they've got it. I'm sure they're going to present it to the Russians. We know it was you. Here's how we know. I think the Russians, don't want to be labeled. And China, of course, doesn't want to be labeled as, we're the ones that, the COVID leaked from the labs kind of thing, right? And there's two big theories about that, whether it was natural or it came from the labs. There's kind of two. And I don't think Russia doesn't want to be known as a terrorist state. So I do think while they'll go so far, I don't think Vladimir Putin will stop the hacking because it's one of their greatest tools and kind of turning a blind eye to it. But I do believe they have, as you mentioned, Mike, I do believe that they have levers over those groups. Could they give them a holiday at the beach? Cut back a little bit and say, calm down a little bit. I mean, I do think there's a line, and we may be at that line or close to that line right now. I mean, time will tell. Is it going to get a lot worse? Are we going to see much more critical infrastructure go down? Are we going to see the grid go down? But clearly we know, and clearly the government knows, because they've sent out, number of different executive orders, directives, letters to industry. This is a serious issue. Deal with it now. There's been several letters that have come out from the Biden administration on this. They know we're vulnerable, and the Russians know how to do it. But if you go too far, it was funny that the hackers were like, dark side's like, we apologize for causing the gas lines. I mean, we only wanted the money. We weren't in this for causing inconvenience to the average person. We're just in it for the cash. So I mean, it's hard to know. Did they actually go over the line? Did they not? I mean, clearly there's two cases here with meat and then with the pipeline gasoline that are hitting people where we're seeing, the average American now knows what ransomware is. This is really getting real for people. Most people are saying it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I think Biden has a chance if they go in there and say, look, I don't know that they're ever going to publicly, we're going to find out. It's going to be like what happens after that. I don't think there's going to, because Russia's not going to come out and admit, yeah, it was us and we're going to stop doing it. That's not going to happen. But behind closed doors, in the secret setting, top secret setting, there's going to be another set of negotiations. I think, they don't want to be labeled by the UN and everybody else as being a terrorist state. They don't want to be known. They still want to play a role in the UN. They still want to play a role in World Economic and, G8 and all the rest of it. So, I mean, to me, I do think that they're going to, point it out, show them where to go, and they're going to, certainly, honestly, I believe we probably already are hacking back. I don't have any classified intelligence saying that. I think some of that's already going on, but the U.S. could certainly do more of that.
Yeah, and as we discussed before we started, when you were in the NSA, you were aware of what those capabilities were then, and it's been some time since you've been in the NSA.
That was a long time ago.
Long time ago, when you were just a young man.
Yeah.
And so, but now I imagine those capabilities have been far improved, and if it got into a situation where the U.S. wanted to unleash a firestorm on Russia, they could do that, but then, of course, then the Russians would come back, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you get to a certain point, and I think both sides do this. I mean, I think you get to a certain point where, when do you cross that line? When does it become, and then when do you back off?
Yeah.
And some people think this is, I've read a number of reports that think this is really, a dry run to if things got a lot worse, between us and Russia or us and China, because there's other reports about, hacking coming from China as well. And so, different examples than the ones we gave today, but different attacks. So my point being, I think, absolutely both sides have capabilities. The U.S. has great capabilities. It's not in either of our interests to see that escalate. And so I do believe that, the Biden administration will probably be doing some hard talk behind closed doors, and then publicly there's going to be obviously some handshakes and things with Biden and Putin, and we'll see how all that goes. But I have to believe that there's going to be two sets of negotiations going on.
Yeah, so it takes us to what can be done. Now, I heard some talk over the weekend that two-factor authentication should be mandatory because I'm not sure whether it was the pipeline one or JBL, but they got in through some credentials of someone who didn't even work there anymore, and
Right.
that got him to the inside. Now, certainly, if he had two-factor authentication, that would have stopped that, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the basic blocking and tackling we've talked about in so many of your shows, Mike, two-factor authentication, just a simple username password is not going to cut it anymore for any of these systems. It also shows that the breadth of these enterprise systems. People say, oh, well, we just do that for system administrator accounts, or we just do that for this part of the network. That's not the operational. But as we just learned, putting two and two together here, it's also the back office systems. It's also, shutting down email, shutting down, your billing systems, can cause these kind of disruptions. So absolutely, two-factor authentication. We talked about, ensuring in this case, they claim they did have backups, but they weren't able to restore them fast enough. And so they went ahead and paid the ransom anyway. It's hard to know the nitty gritty behind exactly that, but I mean, clearly Colonial Pipeline paid the ransom. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, those basic things, many of our passwords are in the dark web. People know what they are. They get those credentials, and so mandating two-factor authentication should be required for all these companies.
Absolutely. You just got a couple of minutes left, so why don't we talk a little bit about Dan is the former CIO and Chief Information Security Officer for the state of Michigan. Now, it's been a number of years, what, 6 or 7 now, Dan?
Yeah, August 1st will be 7 years with Security Mentors. So we're a security awareness training company, do security consulting as well, but really help people do that cyber hygiene, training your staff with phishing exercises, but also training on how to do engaging, interactive, fun training, but actually teaching people things they don't already know. So training your staff is what we do. I also blog for Government Technology Magazine and CSO Magazine. You can follow me on Twitter at GovCSO, GovCSO. And Lohrmann on Cybersecurity is my blog, and love to have you come and visit and interact with us on these topics. We're talking about a lot about this on LinkedIn. A lot of these discussions are going on, so feel free to reach out and link and get involved in the conversation.
Well, we still got a few more minutes. We're waiting for the next guest to come in. So let's talk about the fact that a lot of this might just be an educational thing. A lot of people are still doing dumb things and letting the bad guys in, like phishing attacks and things like that. I imagine you would deal with that at Security Mentor, how to teach people not to do dumb things, right?
Absolutely. And there's more and more ways that people are being tricked. We have the broad phishing, then we talk about spear phishing, which is more targeted, more specific, your name, your company, your government agency, more, and then the whaling, which is the big fish, going after, very targeted. I'm talking about supercharged targeted, knowing the guy who's the chief financial officer, knowing the guy who's got the keys to the kingdom, if you will, could do the bank account transfers. And organizations will put big time and money into tricking people into thinking, the CEO, the CFO wants you to transfer money to this bank account or do this or do that. And so it's not always via a link on an email. It can be, but it could also be a phone call, it could be a fax, could be a text message. Anything they can do to get you to do something different that you wouldn't normally do, break process, break your normal way of doing things, really can be viewed as phishing.
I had a strange occurrence where I think I may have done a dumb thing myself, in the sense of about a month ago, it came in on a very odd way. Normally, if somebody thinks I've used a photograph or a graphic image and haven't done it properly, they alert me. Well, this came in through my comment section of one of my blogs, and they had MITech News. You've used our photographs, and you need to take them down immediately. And like an idiot, I started to click on that, and suddenly about halfway through that, I realized, and I immediately switched out of it as fast as I could, and then went through my system and cleaned everything out. But they even got me, because it's something I thought, wow, coming in through a comment, I hadn't seen that one before. So
they're really good. They're always changing, always trying something new. But if you thought you were good yesterday, tomorrow they may try something different. So
who knows? All right. So one last time. So if folks want to reach out to you, Dan, why don't you give that information?
Sure. Dan Lohrmann, again, Lohrmann, Lohrmann on cybersecurity. and then on Twitter at GovCSO, and our company is Security Mentor, securitymentor.com.
Traditional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.